Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Right.
I know you want to get out of here quick for Thanksgiving, so we'll try to expedite this as much as humanly possible. The first agenda item is a call to order. The time is 10:33 a.m. on Tuesday, November 26, 2019, and quite happily, a quorum is present. Next will be the posting of the colors by the TABC Honor Guard team. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take your seats. The next agenda item is approval of commission minutes of September 24th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote.
You're going to come up?
Oh,
Oh, there it is.
there it is. All right. Excellent. So moved.
So
The
we're
minutes.
good to go?
We're good? Almost? Aye, aye.
I didn't record. Oh, right. So. One more time.
We could always take a verbal if necessary.
One more time.
Okay, we're gonna do this over. All right. All right, we need to hire a 15-year-old to come up here and help us with this. Oh, my kids would be laughing at me right now if they only knew. Anyway, so now we have the minutes are approved as written. Our votes have been recorded. Okay, at this time, we are going to have a special ceremony involving and honoring the 84 years of service. As you all know, the 21st Amendment was abolished, and approximately a year later, the United States government tasked all states to create their own liquor regulatory agencies. We were originally called the Texas Liquor Control Board, established on November 16, 1935. Since that day, we have grown to a model state agency overseeing over 56,000 businesses. And I'm honored to be part of the mission to help businesses succeed and for us to protect Texas communities. I'm also very proud of what we have accomplished as an agency, everyone here. I'd like to thank the industry members who are here that are vital to not only our purpose and mission, but also collaboration in enhancing what we do every day. And without industry help and support, we could not do our job. So for those of you that are here and watching, we thank you very much. And what better way to celebrate than to eat cake. So, General Nettles?
Yes, sir. So we have, John Gore's and our 2 employees.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we do this every time.
This is great.
One went over the-
We start off with cake.
Start off with cake.
Okay, I'd like to introduce 2 TABC employees. They're going to help us cut the cake. We have Roy Dell, one of our longest serving employees at headquarters, and Juan Rodriguez, one of our newest employees. Roy has served TABC for nearly 37 years. Roy started out working in the mailroom, is now part of the business animal service team. Roy started here in 1978, left in 83, missed us, came back in 87, and has been here ever since. Roy says he's seen the agency become a whole lot more professional during his time here. Juan Rodriguez is the newest member of our team. Juan has worked at TABC for a total of 7 days. Glad you're both here. He's our first dedicated videographer to work at TABC.
Fantastic.
His job is to tell positive stories about TABC through powerful videos. We posted his first video this morning, and if you have time, check it out on Facebook. Before joining TABC, Juan was a multimedia journalist at KView here in Austin.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, we don't get to eat it. We just have to look inside. No, we'll get to that momentarily. All right, now it's very exciting, really exciting moment for us as an agency. As you know, and the Sunset Commission tasked us with, I think, a wise challenge, and that was to increase the size of our commission from 3 to 5. And we are absolutely delighted. We had Commissioner Boatwright join us recently, and now we have 2 new commissioners here that we were extremely excited representing San Antonio and El Paso. So we're honored to have now virtually the entire state covered. And so it is my distinct honor and privilege to administer the oath of office at this time. We're going to start with
Marina.
excellent. Thank you. All right, if you would, ma'am, please step downstairs. We'll start this process.
He's going to read the bio once you're.
Okay, excellent.
Okay,
Here is
okay.
perfect.
Front and center.
So Deborah Marino joined SWBC. What's that stand for?
Southwest Business Corporation.
Okay, good. February 2006, as Senior Vice President of Corporate Relations, she oversees SWBC's philanthropic and public policy involvement at local, state, and national levels. Under her leadership, SWBC Cares and SWBC Political Action Committee were established. Both are employee-supported opportunities that nationally make an impact within the community and the public policy process. Prior to joining SWBC, Deborah worked as a political consultant, lobbyist, nonprofit fundraiser. She organized local, state, and national events for various elected officials, for-profit, and nonprofit agencies. Deborah earned her bachelor's in journalism from Texas A&M. And a graduate of the United States. Graduate of the United States Olympic Gold Leadership Program. She holds her general lines agent licenses for life, accident health, HMO, real estate, property, casualty. Deborah served as the Texas governor's appointee to the Texas Commission on the Arts, on the Texas Health Services Authority Board. She also serves as the Deputy Counsel to the Texas Business Leadership Council, Vice Chair of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce's 2019 Executive Committee, and is the incoming 2019-2021 Chair of the Women United for United Way of San Antonio, New York County. Just a little busy. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Debbie, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Deborah Gray Marino,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of Commissioner
the duties of the office of Commissioner
with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission
with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
obey, preserve, protect,
obey, preserve, protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States and of this state.
of the United States and of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome aboard. Outstanding. Next victim. The thrashings will begin shortly.
So Scott Atkins is fifth generation El
Paso in.
Paso.
Yes.
Okay. We have a lot of Pasoans in our agency, surprisingly enough. So he graduated from Franklin High School and then received a swimming scholarship to attend Texas Christian University in Fort Worth. Scott graduated from TCU with a Bachelor's of Business Administration in both accounting and finance. The senior year of college, he was named TCU Student Athlete of the Year. After graduating from TCU, Scott worked as a financial analyst for Blockbuster in Dallas. He worked there for 2 years before deciding to return to El Paso and join his family business, Curry Atkins, an IT solution consulting company. Scott started off as a business manager and worked his way up to CEO over a 10-year period. Scott has served as CEO of Curry Atkins for the past 5 years. Also serves as the president for a security company, Hyrocom Systems, that was recently acquired by family ownership. Scott saw moving back to El Paso as not only a career opportunity, but an opportunity to truly make an impact on the community in which he grew up. Scott immediately got involved in the community upon his return in 2004, serving on the board of Keystone Heritage Park, becoming board president after 2 years. Since then, Scott has served both a board member and board president of the El Paso Club, the El Paso Leadership Academy, and Progress 321. Scott has also served as a board member and executive committee member of the Paso de Norte Group, Junior Achievement of Desert Southwest, and Insights Science Museum. Scott currently serves on the board of Las Palmas del Sol Hospitals and the Greater El Paso Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Scott's married to Julia.
Argelia.
I knew I was going to mess that up. And they continue tremendous advocates of the Paso de Norte region.
Took me like 6 months to get her.
All right. Mr. Soon-to-be Commissioner Atkins, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Scott Atkins,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully
the
execute
duties of the office of Commissioner
the duties of the office of Commissioner
of the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission
of the Texas Alcoholic Beverage
of the state of
of the
Texas,
state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
obey,
obey,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
He's a tall guy, isn't he? Thank you. Outstanding. All right.
No, you're good.
Oh, right. Now we have to do, now we have a lottery.
We do.
Yes,
Oh.
indeed. Okay, so I guess I will just read this. In accordance to HB 1545, the two commissioners will now draw lots to indicate which commissioner will serve a 4-year term expiring November 15th, 2023, or a 6-year term expiring November 15th, 2025. So if you would please come forward so the commissioners may draw.
Raise it to coin them, probably? Okay. Six.
All right.
That means you.
I'm for.
You're 4.
Easy.
It's either 9 or 6.
Right, right. Okay. All right. So, just before we briefly move into the cake cutting, I wanted to just offer a little bit of just perspective of this agency as we are now in our 84th year. Obviously, we've done a lot of things. We've seen a lot of changes. The challenges that we face, I think, are extraordinary and in some cases daunting. As you know, we as an agency have taken on the task of fighting human trafficking as one of our primary objectives. And I wanted to give some perspective, if I may. In 1776, I guess when our first meeting of the Continental Congress, all the members gathered and decided that before, and I think it's appropriate as we're going to have a chaplain here soon, they decided to have a prayer session. And this was not any perfunctory kind of, let's say, grace. This was a get on your knees, serious prayer session in which everyone from John Adams to John Jay, including George Washington, got into fervent prayer. Now, I'm not here to preach, and some of you are non-believers, some of you are believers, some of you have different faiths. But the point that they made was that the task before them was so daunting and so impossible for this small republic of militiamen to defeat the greatest army in the world, the greatest empire in the world, required nothing less than divine intervention. The task that we have before us to eradicate human trafficking from licensed establishments is so overwhelming. If you guys watch the news, you know the power of the cartels. They are not just a crime unit. They run businesses. They have sophisticated MBAs and lawyers. And it's tough, and it's a challenge. And so I want to also thank everyone in this agency, because whether you're in audit, whether you're in licensing, whether you're in enforcement, whether you're in education, whether you're in legal, everyone is contributing to this task. Because every time you do something that enhances this reputation of this agency, you are helping us achieve our mission. And so I just want to tell everyone to thank these commissioners who are helping in this task, that we all stand shoulder to shoulder in the effort to eradicate this blight on humanity and do all that we can. And so I am grateful as we celebrate our 84th anniversary to go forward with this task in mind. And when you go to bed at night, you think about what is my life worth and what are we contributing? I believe you're making a difference. You're saving lives. Somewhere there is a mother in El Paso or in San Antonio or in Guatemala whose child is gone. And we're going to do our best to make sure that those children get back and that this is discontinued. So, commissioners, thank you for joining us all. Thank you for this 84th anniversary. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go eat some cake. So we will recess for 15 minutes.
The time, sir.
Time is 10:52. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now reconvene. The time is 11:12. All right, the next agenda item will be a briefing on the TABC Account Representative Initiative. Deputy Executive Colonel Beal.
Chairman Lilly, Commissioners, I'm very glad to be here today. I'd also like to welcome aboard Commissioner Marino and Commissioner Atkins. You know, it's very appropriate that we just celebrated the 84th anniversary of the establishment of this agency. November 1935, we began protecting the people of Texas. So not only was November a pretty laudatory month in the birth of this agency, but a lot of other great events occurred in November. Daniel Boone, Will Rogers, Billy Graham, General George Patton, Winston Churchill, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, and Bat Masterson were all born in November. The Gatling gun was invented in November.
Outstanding.
Yes. And of course, the most significant event to occur in November in the history of the world was the formation of the greatest fighting force in the history of the world,
Oh,
the United
no,
States
here it
Marine Corps.
comes. Here it comes.
1775.
Can somebody, can we edit that before he comes out?
So it's appropriate that this agency's birth shares the notable events of the month of November. So in that tradition of service, as TABC continues to try to improve our customer service the industry, we've developed a TABC Account Ambassador Initiative. This new initiative is designed to take our licensing division to a new level of partnering with industry and to enhance our service. As you can see on this slide here, we've identified 14 members of our manufacturing, distributing, and retail tier. And what we've done with those 14 members is we have assigned them a licensing permitting specialist, one of our senior members of our licensing division, to be their personal account ambassador. The purpose of this, and what this program is designed to do, is to partner with industry, provide a personal resource for those individuals, and to promote good business practices. Essentially what this is that now if one of our primary customers that we are looking at, when we selected these members to participate in this effort based on the number of permits that they have and their business requirements. What the Account Ambassador Program does is assist these particular companies with original applications, renewals, supplementals, and any status updates they may have. So if they need to call in and they need to talk to somebody before they get into our phone tree here, and you never knew who they were going to talk to. But these particular businesses here have over 1,300 permits throughout the state of Texas at 600 different locations. So what we did was we took these 14, we're establishing this pilot program to allow them now to have a single point of contact, and each one of them has a different point of contact. And that LPS will in fact do these things you see on the slide, along with, and if they can't answer the question, they'll also route other issues that they might have concerning compliance reporting, audit, or any other public safety issues that they might have, and any other guidance that they may need from the TABC leadership. This program has already proved to be pretty successful because we've had numerous compliments from the industry that are participating in the program. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, Colonel.
Appreciate that little bonus from the Marine Corps.
You're welcome.
It's also my anniversary month, so, all right.
Well, I had that down here, but I just forgot.
Next agenda item will be briefing on TABC Roundtable Tour of Texas 2019, Director Staples. We're pleased that you are here, and just as you all, the new commissioners know, about 2 years ago, we began this program of bringing the TABC on the road to meet with industry leaders. It was largely, it's been an effort, Director Staples and General Nettles, and it has been an overwhelming success. The opportunity for us to interact with industry leaders and have sort of intimate conversations about issues that affect them, because they are our partners, has been extraordinary. And I continue to laud your efforts, so we're excited to hear your latest update.
Well, appreciate that introduction, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Glad to be with you today. So I'm going to give you a brief update on our 2019 roundtable tour of Texas, what those efforts have entailed, and what the results have been. So what these events are, well, since the commission last met in September, about 2 months ago, TABC's hosted 7 of these roundtable events across the state, and we bring together our industry partners in various areas of the state, along with our area legislators, and we like to have a conversation about the changes that are happening at TABC, how that's impacting industry, things that are happening in industry that TABC is not aware of, that the industry needs to learn about, and figure out how they can improve and work with industry to accommodate these changing dynamics. And one of the number one things that comes from these events is the partnerships that the agency is able to create with these key stakeholders in making good government happen. So we hosted these events in all 5 of TABC's regions around Texas, all the way in North Texas up to Lubbock, down to Edinburgh and the Rio Grande Valley. And I want to give a big thank you to each of the venue hosts who helped us put these events on. Without them, we wouldn't have had a place to hold these things. So briefly, I'll just mention Texas Tech University, the Hispanic Cultural Center of Midland, Texas A&M's Engineering Extension Service, also known as TEAS, the Grand Prairie Police Department, Houston Community College, and the DHR Health Hospital System. So we appreciate their partnership and helping put these events on. And we also have 2 more events that we're looking to conduct in early 2020, possibly in San Antonio and in East Texas, but we'll have some more info on those events as they get scheduled, and hopefully 1 or 2 of you are able to join those events and see what it's all about. So at these meetings, what we talk about, our main message to our stakeholders is one of TABC bringing a business-minded approach to its operations and solving problems. We want to look to we want to talk about implementing new positive changes and learn from industry and legislators on what we don't know yet and what we can improve on. And those big items, skip ahead, the big items that we're talking about at this particular set of events were sunset reforms from the legislative session, other significant laws impacting industry operations, how industry can stay engaged with the agency and stay up to date with various changes, new technology coming into play in TABC, and last and certainly not least, and as the chairman's already mentioned this morning, the agency's priority in preventing human trafficking at licensed and permitted locations all across the state. So what's the result of all these efforts? From our events face-to-face, we're able to reach about 120 industry members and 32 representatives of the legislative branch, but we're able to reach a broader audience and get the message out about what TABC is doing and the impact it's having through the media coverage we've had. For the Lubbock event, we had about 9 outlets covering the event. College Station, we had an outlet covering the event. And in the Rio Grande Valley, we also have another media outlet covering our efforts there. But aside from who we were able to reach, TABC was able to get some valuable feedback from its industry partners. And the top 3 most consistent things that we heard was the need for TABC to provide simplified guidance for industry that's tailored to the specific industry audience. We all know that alcohol law, and if you try to read any of it, it's a bit complicated and hard to follow at times, but we definitely have that clear message, and that's something the agency is working toward. Other 2 are considering impacts on business and all of the agency's regulatory decision-making processes. And anything that we do, the industry is asking us to be proactive, responsive, and collaborative with our stakeholders. So I'm proud to say that's something that our team is already working on and looking for specific ways to improve upon those items. A lot of the reforms, the TABC transformation with our new technology and sunset reforms are taking care of some of those items as well. But we'll continue to work to be provide exemplary customer service for our stakeholders and make TABC a model business regulatory state. That's all the prepared remarks I have for you this morning. If you have any questions, glad to answer those.
Commissioner?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Director Staples. Great job. Next agenda item will be a briefing on Spring Academy skill sets and cost. Inspector General Colonel Dement, Director Salinas.
One more November event, sir. I would be remiss if I didn't embarrass my esteemed colleagues here. Jared Staples' birthday is today. So,
All right, happy birthday.
We have cake.
you seem a little off.
You're old enough to drink now. Sorry. I wish I looked that young.
Great stuff. Indeed, it's a great day to be a Texan, great day to be a part of the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. And I congratulate each and every one of you for being commissioners for the greatest state agency on the planet Earth. The driving force here, General Bentley Nettles, has made some tremendous strides with your oversight there as the veteran commissioners. And we're continuing to march forward on that order and make this even a better organization each and every day. And my colleagues behind me make this the best place to work that I've ever been a part of. So happy to be here today. Good morning, and I'm Director Darrell Dement, your Inspector General, and I'm a retired U.S. Army Colonel, U.S. Army emphasized, and I'm here with your Director of Training, Brigadier General Orlando Salinas, retired U.S. Army as well. And we're excited to discuss two topics. The first is our upcoming Spring Academy, and the second is our new chaplain program. Good, that worked. Our march to this spring's upcoming academy is illustrated here. You'll notice the red horizontal line shows you roughly where we are today in our planning continuum. And we have very good news that we are currently vetting 203 applicants to fill 30 vacant seats in our law enforcement agent arena. Also, I want to inform you that our curriculum is undergoing a major overhaul, which will bring it in line with the shift in field operations that will better support countering human trafficking and undercover operations, as well as moving us towards more in-depth, long-term investigative techniques. At the upper right of this slide, you'll see the Academy start date will be April 6, 2020. As we continue to strive to attract and then retain the highest level of professional law enforcement talent, we are pleased to offer this 13-week academy at a better location than we've ever done it in the history of this organization. The Public Safety Training Center, or PSTC, located just south of Austin in Kyle, Texas, offers a one-stop shop for our trainees. This is a huge improvement. In past years, we've borrowed space ad hoc from around Central Texas and from other agencies, and are often hampered in our training by competing priorities with the hosting agency, as well as weather delays. Pictured here on the lower left is a modular reality-based training room, RBT, reality-based training. And on the right is the emergency vehicle operations course, which is where our guys learn to drive. And you'll hear more about that when you hear from government relations. We're working in close coordination with them because we're going to offer some multiple engagement days with the elected officials out there. And hopefully you'll have the opportunity to be a part of that as well. Lastly, pictured here is a view of the indoor firing range. This state-of-the-art facility, though, didn't come for free. And we're investing a little more than we have in recent years. For 89 training days, this comes at a $32,000 cost. But we feel this is a nominal fee to pay for such a facility, and we think that it will go a long way in professionalizing the law enforcement force that's coming through the pipeline. We must use this type of training, and we must use these types of facilities to continue to evolve our law enforcement training and practices to overmatch and outpace the criminal organizations that we seek to continue to eradicate from the state of Texas. Subject to any questions, this concludes our presentation on the upcoming training academy.
So, Colonel, we're no longer going to be going to Mabry.
We will do our graduation at Camp Mabry, sir, and we may use them from time to time for some classroom, but
Right.
by and large, this is the facility that the training will be conducted.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions? Thank you.
We'll move right along.
The commissioners want to know if they can use the driving course.
Your boys.
We don't have any pit maneuver yet, sir, but if you can figure that piece out.
Thank you, General.
They have to use your own vehicle. Okay, continuing with our theme of retaining the highest level of professionals in our agency, we're enhancing our comprehensive wellness program through the inclusion of a chaplain program. And I'm happy today to introduce to you a very close friend of the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Chaplain Scott McIntosh. Captain Scott McIntosh has been assisting us as a friendly partner. He's worked with the academy, and I'd like to say a word or two. I'm happy to turn it over.
Listen, it's great to be here. It's nice to be sitting in front of you. When I got out of high school in 1977, I went to work for Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission and in the licensing department. Most boring job I've ever done. I've seen the light, and now I work for Texas Parks. No, it's great to be here. It's been a joy to work with your folks, really. I have learned so much. I didn't know there were so many laws about alcohol. But I sit in there and I try to learn and retain and get to know these cadets, get to hear their stories, and I'm looking forward to the next cadet class.
Okay, your agency wellness program is grounded in our agency's leadership principles. Communication, recognition, empowerment, and work-life balance are taught and reinforced to all leaders across all divisions through our LEADS curriculum. As the normal stresses of life occur, our Human Resource Department can assist in numerous ways, one of which is through the Employee Assistance Program, or EAP. Additionally, your agency is provided assistance from ERS, that's the State Employee Retirement System, via their health professional administrator, Lacey Wolf. She offers face-to-face classroom instruction on mindfulness. Her program is designed to improve productivity, reduce blood pressure, improve sleep, decrease anxiety, and improve our immune functions. These programs are all awesome, and we want to continue to build upon them, but we know we can do more. The recent mass shootings in El Paso, Odessa, and Midland are stark reminders that the law enforcement profession isn't getting any easier. In fact, statistically, a career officer is 3 times more likely to be a victim of their own suicide than to be shot by a perpetrator. The emotional toll paid by our agents in the field demand we seek all means to ensure their well-being. So this all-volunteer chaplain program will help fill that gap in spiritual well-being and complete the whole holistic well-being solution we have been seeking as an agency. We are just now in the beginning stages of building out this volunteer program fully. A memorandum of understanding is now being circulated through the chain of command with the Texas Military Department, and we are continuing to rely on and expand upon our existing relationship with the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Ladies and gentlemen, subject to any questions you may have, this concludes our presentation on the chaplain program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
The next agenda item will be a briefing on commission meetings on the road with Director Black.
Well, good morning, Chairman Lilly and Commissioners. I'm very excited to be here today, despite what our chaplain just said. I think this is a fantastic and exciting agency. I've been here for 3 months, and so far every day seems to be a new adventure. So I very much
And we love licensing, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you very much. My name is Brian Black. I am the Director of Communications and External Relations here at TABC, and I'm hoping that you all love road trips, because if you agree to the proposal that I'm going to be talking about today, we are definitely going to be crisscrossing the state in 2020. So our leadership team is constantly looking at opportunities for continuous improvement. After a lot of internal discussion, we have come up with a proposal that we believe would benefit you, would benefit our stakeholders, would benefit employees, the public, and the media. You can see from page 2 of the presentation, we are proposing taking 4 of the 6 commission meetings on the road in 2020. As you know, the TABC mission covers the entire state from El Paso to Palestine and Booker to Brownsville. We see the tour of Texas as an opportunity for advanced engagement. Unfortunately, most of the stakeholders have never been to a commission meeting here in Austin. So our idea is let's bring the commission meetings to them. This will help you as decision makers. You can hear directly from constituents to understand what TABC is doing well and some areas where maybe we may need to improve. Plus, some regional employees, they've never attended the meetings as well. So this would be an opportunity for you to meet some of our regional employees and for them to attend their first commission meeting. On page 3 of the presentation, you can see we are proposing 4 locations for the tour of Texas. San Antonio in March. For the first one, we believe having it close will make sense for logistics, and just in case there's any mistakes, being close to Austin will definitely help us. Then we have Houston in May, Arlington in July, and El Paso in September. These locations were chosen because they have regional offices and area offices to help support the meeting, and there is a high concentration of stakeholders in those areas. On page 4 of the presentation, it provides context on how we're planning on keeping costs down for this project. As commissioners, since none of you live in Austin, we already pay for your travel, so that will remain the same. We plan on bringing a small contingent of staff members on the road, General Nettles, of course, the chief counsel, our rules attorney, and members of the communication team to handle logistics. We will also use our TABC regional employees to help staff these meetings. We will use technology to have Austin staff members provide reports via webcams, and we could use state offices so we are not charged for renting meeting facilities. And this is important to note. Those from TABC who will be traveling will be visiting these places already. So there are really no additional costs. What do I mean by that? Well, staff will be heading out to El Paso, let's say, for commission meetings. General Nettles will be going and visiting his regional folks and talking to employees just like he normally does. Our communications team will be heading out there and they'll get videos while we're out there in El Paso or the other cities that we go to. The chief counsel will meet with stakeholders in the area to ensure our partnership with industry remains strong. Our idea is we're traveling already, so we'll make sure that we pinpoint and schedule things for each of these 4 cities that we plan to go to. On page 5 of the presentation, you can see we will be reviewing the results of the initiative. If the tour of Texas is successful, then we would recommend having commission meetings on the road during non-legislative session years. Of course, we know during the session it's all hands on deck and we all need to be in Austin. But during non-session years, we think it might be a good idea again to get you guys out on the road. Now, to measure success, we'll look at meeting attendance, send out after action surveys for those who participated to get feedback. And of course, we'll look for major logistical failures to make sure they're not systemic. We'll look at streaming the meetings live, so those back in Austin who normally attend will still be able to watch these meetings. We, of course, will handle all the logistics to make sure things go smoothly for you all. So that is our proposal, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Would public comment be available from Austin to webcam to those meetings?
Absolutely, sir. Just similar that we'll have people give the reports. We can definitely set it up so if there's any public comment, those folks can offer you comment as well. That's a great question.
What about venues?
Our plans is if we can use our regional offices, we'll use those. Or if there's other state facilities that we can use, we'll make sure that we use a state facility. We do not want to go out and rent another facility.
Commissioners? We're happy to have you in El Paso.
All right. That's what I thought.
All right, let's move to the Director Black. You are on the next agenda item as well.
Well, thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm happy to have the opportunity to provide a second presentation to give you a glimpse on some of our internal operations in the Communications and External Relations Division. I really love this quote on the second page of the presentation from Paul Meyer. Productivity is never an accident. It is the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. This quote encapsulates exactly what you see on page 3 of your presentation, our strategic communications calendar. You also should have hard copies of our calendars for October, November, and December. We have those, so you can take a look at those. And I'm a huge planner. And when I came to TABC a few months ago, I thought it was important for the team, for the general, and for you, the commissioners, to have a blueprint of some of our outreach activities. I believe one of the benefits of using a communications calendar is the ability to visualize our outreach efforts and content strategy over a period of time. In the calendars, we are putting efforts from the communications team, the government relations team, and the external affairs team. We're all focused on messaging, and by having all of us together on a calendar, it helps us remain very consistent on certain topics. We all should be pushing at the same time. And I also just love the visual of the calendar. It helps me notice content gaps, or if we're focusing too much on a particular topic, or maybe not enough on another topic. Of course, it also draws lines in the sand, so we always make sure that we're meeting our deadlines, which clearly is important. On page 4 of the presentation, you can see our production schedule. Right now, we're taking baby steps. We're just planning out month by month. This will evolve, where we have calendars for 90 days and 6 months out. Our comms, GR, and external affairs teams turn their information in on the 15th of the month for activities for the following month. We gather everything together, review, adjust, and then finalize. We then provide the calendar to General Nettles by the 17th of the month, because we want to make sure that what we're putting together is following his vision and what he wants to do for the agency. We're posting the calendars to our intranet site so our employees can see what we're doing and give them the confidence that we are definitely forward thinking. And also in the spring, when we have our new website, we'll be putting that on the public website, because we are completely transparent. We want our stakeholders and the public to see exactly what we're doing. We think that is very, very important. Now, how are we populating the calendars? Of course, our communications and external relations team, we don't know everything that is going on when it comes to the agency. So we've developed what are called pitch meetings. And I asked every director of the agency to delegate one person. And we have these monthly meetings where we come in and they pitch ideas. What are some good ideas that they're seeing, positive ideas that they're doing in their agency? And we've seen some amazing results. We've had 2 meetings so far. We've had some really, really good information from these people. And again, it's just a great way to make sure that we're getting the information from all of our different employees out there. And I think it's something that the employees are enjoying as well, making sure that they're part of the process, which we haven't seen in the past. So if you're interested in receiving the calendars, we can start providing you to you as well. And we hope these efforts will continue to build a TABC brand of service and make sure that we are showing folks out there that we're absolutely there to help businesses and to protect Texas communities. So with that, I conclude my presentation unless you have some questions.
So will roundtables appear on here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, right. Now, the event at SMU, the industry, is that considered a roundtable, or is that considered something?
Executive summit.
That's the executive summit? All right. Right. Excellent. Well
Thank
done.
you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And you all have a wonderful
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
And you as well.
Thanks.
All right. The next item is a briefing on the 86th legislative session interim update. Director Raymond. Nick, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman Lilly, Commissioners. My name is Nick Raymond, Director of Government Relations here at TABC. It's an honor to present our efforts for the 86th session interim today. In recognizing the accomplishments of this past session, I would like to personally thank Chairman Lilly and Commissioner Steen for their service and commitment to this agency. And thank you to Executive Director General Nettles and Deputy Executive Directors Chaplain, Sines, and Colonel Field for their leadership. Lastly, thanks to all our amazing subject matter experts and staff for providing timely, accurate information, no matter the time or day. And finally, one special thanks to Marianne Morlock for her tireless efforts and dedication throughout this entire process.
Here.
The direction of the agency has been well received for those in and around the Capitol. Government relations' main goal is to effectively communicate the agency's top priorities, the implementation of legislation, and to provide excellent customer service to the members, staff, and their constituents. Furthermore, establish strategic working groups and relationships with government entities and organizations, building trust, confidence, and cooperation. The interim is the time between legislative sessions. House and Senate leadership assign interim charges to their committees, instruct them to study important issues and research information about a variety of topics to help guide future legislation. The committees will hold hearings for public input and invite testimony for various stakeholders, including state agencies. Their findings are reported back to leadership, and in most cases, legislation is drafted to address these issues. As of yesterday, both House and Senate interim charges have been assigned. I've included in your packets the charges for the House Committee on Licensing and Administrative Procedures. This committee has jurisdiction over all matters relating to the alcoholic beverage code. Specifically, charge 1 includes review of the sunset bill and the implementation and where we're at with it, along with the consumer delivery bill, Senate Bill 1450. Highlighting also charge 2, which focuses on combating human trafficking at all licensed locations, and charge 3 continues the intent of House Concurrent Resolution 168, which passed through the House during session, but was stalled up in the Senate. There are other charges in other committees, but those are the highlights. Along with our efforts at the Capitol, we are active in the newly created Human Trafficking Prevention Coordinating Council and previously established Human Trafficking Task Force. Throughout the state, we've joined the governor's office on a new campaign, Can You See Me, which identifies and brings light for their efforts against human trafficking, during which the agency is often recognized for our efforts and what we're contributing. TABC was also invited just recently to participate in the Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Oklahoma Sex Trafficking Summit, giving General Nettles and I the opportunity to discuss our human trafficking prevention efforts and the additional support we need. Looking forward to this year's legislative day, as previously mentioned, at the Agent Training Academy. We're hoping to engage members and staff, provide possibly the driving course and the simulator experience for them. So far, we've got good feedback from that, so we'll be updating you as dates are set.
Did you say 50?
I'm sorry?
50? So you had 50 back or what?
No, just good positive feedback.
Okay.
Yes, sir. In conclusion, participation in various working groups and the interim charges that deal with TABC will be very important in our preparation for the 87th legislative session, which convenes January 12th, 2021. That concludes my interim update. If you have any questions.
Just another comment. So for my benefit of our new commissioners, this last legislative session, we were able to secure more funding for this agency than we had in the last 4 combined. And much of it is to the credit of Nick and Mary Ann and our government affairs team, who basically almost spent every day in the Capitol. And so the information that you prepared, the schedules that you prepared were extraordinary. And so you've done a great job. And now, as we know, now is the time for the next session. So now we are putting together our strategic plan and our wish list to go back and creating the evidence that what we've been given, the technology, the improvements are actually benefiting and helping. So great job, Nick.
Thank you.
The next agenda item will be a briefing on the TABC rulemaking process. Director Cordona.
commission members, and welcome to our new commissioners. I'm Amy Cardona. I'm the co-director of the Strategic Initiatives and Performance Improvement Office within the Executive Division. It's also known as SIPI. Yes, there are a lot of jokes associated with that. The other co-director is Marianne Morlock. So she was our government affairs director, and she's transitioned over to working with me on legislative implementation. She's out of town today, but I'm presenting on our behalf. Our office is managing TABC's implementation of legislation, primarily the Sunset Bill, but also other significant legislation such as Senate Bill 1450, the Consumer Delivery Bill. The legislature passed major reforms to the Alcoholic Beverage Code during the last session, so implementing these changes is a major undertaking. And really, it's the whole agency that makes it successful. So I'm here today to provide an overview of rulemaking at TABC and how the process works, so that you can get a glimpse of everything that goes into a rule actually coming before you, because it's a long process with a number of steps involved. So on this first slide, I'm going to give you an overview of some of the internal actions that we've taken to make sure that TABC can accomplish all of the needed rulemaking to effectively implement the legislation I was talking about. And this is really an ongoing 2-year process to implement what the legislature did last session, because we've got changes effective September 1st of this year, at the end of this calendar year. There's more changes at the end of 2020, and then more changes in September of 2021. So like I said, there were a lot of major reforms, so that's why we have those staggered implementation dates. In addition to the multitude of rules that we need to develop or modify to implement legislation, we're also working to build a process to ensure that the agency reviews all of its rules over a certain time frame, and start to track centrally potential changes as they come up, and also get all of our rules on a schedule to make sure that we're in compliance with the 4-year rule review requirement in state law. But first, we needed to build that 2-year schedule to make sure that we could meet the legislative timelines that have been given by the legislature in that legislation. And so just 3 things I want to mention as far as how the actions we've taken to manage workload and also make sure that we effectively vet rules and get stakeholder input. Our first, just the creation of the office that Marianne and I have. The executive director created SIPI, again, it's Strategic Initiatives and Performance Improvement, to manage implementation overall, which is a lot of moving parts, but rulemaking is really critical to that. What Marianne and I have done over the last few months is to work with the legal division and executive management to define the process down to the smallest detail, make it a predictable, repeatable process, and make sure that roles and responsibilities are very clear. And we've also worked on planning the timeline to ensure even distribution of workload, and also to make sure that we can meet the deadlines in law. And proactive planning is really essential to making it all work. So that's a major part of our work. And secondly, TABC has hired a new rules attorney, Shana Horton, and you'll be hearing from her when she actually lays out some of the rules for you today. So Shana made a metaphor recently that she's the engine in the train. So she writes the rules, and then Marianne and I at SIPI, we are sort of conducting the train, monitoring, trying to avoid crashes and safely drive the train. So they're both complementary roles. Third, we have regularly scheduled rules committee meetings, and the rules committee is essentially made up of subject matter experts and an executive management team to make sure that we properly vet rules before we send them out to stakeholders for review. Okay. I'm going to walk you through just some of the highlights, the key steps, and you'll also see these on the flow chart in the next slide, which has more steps and more detail actually. So first, all the rules require some level of research, planning, and analysis on the front end, and the extent and the time needed really depends on the complexity of the rule. And so we've accounted for this in our internal planning, but you're not going to see it on the flow chart just because it varies depending on what the rule is. The second step is that Shana drafts the rule in accordance with the schedule that we've set, and that the drafting of the rule, getting that draft is really kicking off the process that you'll see in the flow chart. And then the rule goes before the Rules Committee for internal vetting. We make changes. We then present that to the executive director, who approves distributing for a stakeholder meeting. And then after the rules goes through that stakeholder meeting process, the rules placed on the commission agenda, and that's the first time that that you see it at a meeting. And then the vote is essentially to publish for 30-day comment period in the Texas Register. And so then at the following commission meeting, assume that you approve to publish that rule, that's when you would finally adopt the rule, the following commission meeting. So once a rule is adopted, we submit that to the Texas Register, and then 20 days after that point is when it's actually effective. So it might be kind of hard to see, but we made this just as a tool internally to track all the process steps. But this last slide is just a reference for you to show you a visual representation of all the steps involved. It also provides a little more information on timeframes, as well as which division handles which part of the process. One of the main things I want to point out that I think is important about the timeframes is that we've calculated that it takes about 11 weeks from the time that we have a rule draft until the rule actually comes before you to vote to publish it. And there's even more time that goes into a rule before and after that point. So there's really a lot of advanced planning involved. That's what I have for you today, and I'm happy to field any questions should you have them.
Well, one question, just for the benefit of the new commissioners, can you just briefly tell us about, you're relatively new to the agency. So can you tell us about your background?
Sure.
Briefly.
So I've been with TABC since February of 2018. I came here from the Sunset Commission, and my initial charge was to help the agency manage the Sunset Review, because it really is, it's a lot of internal coordination and making sure that we're providing the information they ask for. Review, and during the session, it's reviewing amendments and making sure that we get all the feedback together and all of that. So that was my initial charge. And I have some various other projects I worked on as well, but now that the bill passed, Marion and I are working on the actual implementation of the legislation, which is a very interesting process. It'll be 2 years for me.
And I will say that your efforts and your background were tremendous in assisting us in having a successful Sunset Review. So, and one thing, General Nels, just for the benefit of our new commissioners, they're meeting a lot of people for the first time. It might be nice for a director comes up to present, not to belabor, just a very brief snippet on kind of who you are and sort of your role, maybe your background a little bit, how long you've been with the agency, just so we can get faces with names, because I know it's a lot of people for you all to meet. So thank you. Well done.
And Amy is getting ready to do the turkey trot. We were awesome.
Is that going to be in costume?
Yeah. This will be my 5th time doing it. So
Well, the weather's certainly more cooperative than it has been in years
I
past.
think it might rain.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's raining right now.
Oh, is it raining now? Oh, my gosh. Okay. Before we begin, Ms. Horton, we're going to make a slight change in the order to benefit public discussion. As the public comment today deals with one of the rules, we thought it was fitting and appropriate that the individual should be able to speak before we vote. So I'm going to ask if Adam DeBauer is here and wishes to speak on Rule 34.3. So Adam, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Really, actually, mostly what I wanted to do first was just acknowledge and applaud TABC staff for the efforts they put in on the rulemaking process. We think that it's been a very fair and transparent process so far, and I think that I can speak for a lot of members. So, sorry, step back 1 second. I'm Adam DeBauer, owner, founder of Austin Beer Works Craft Brewery here in Austin, Texas. I also sit on the board of directors from the Texas Craft Brewers Guild, where I currently serve as its legislative chairman. So that's why I'm here today. So, anywho, wanted to applaud the efforts on the TABC staff for the process, and we did have one comment I think we shared with Mr. Smith and Ms. Horton, specifically vis-a-vis the process. So the first, for a first violation for the beer to go sales, should a brewery violate, there's a warning. The second one is either a fine or a suspension, and the third is a larger fine or suspension. And so our only comment vis-a-vis all of that was simply that as opposed to a suspension of an entire license, our point was that we felt it would be more appropriate that the suspension would deal specifically with the rights to sell beer to go. The reason that we said that is specifically due to the fact that this is not a major safety concern from our point of view. Specifically, this is more of an administrative issue, and so that was the only comment. But in general, we don't feel that that is such a huge concern that it needs to derail this entire process. And we think that the overall, where the rule has gotten to is an acceptable and a good place. So, thank you.
And by the way, you do a great job. You make a great product, and no, and it's a real joy for the opportunity to work with, small business owners. Those of us who are, business owners, you guys are the lifeblood and the future of the state of Texas. So
Thank you
keep
very
doing
much.
what you do. And I got to drink a beer at 11 o'clock with the governor, thanks to you. So. Okay, Ms. Horton, tell us a little bit about what you do and give us a 15-second on your background.
Are we still morning? Good morning. Just barely.
By 1 minute.
My name is Shana Horton. I have only been with the agency since August. I was brought on as the rules attorney. For the next 2 years, I will be pretty much doing all of the rules that the legislature has asked us to develop and amend. Beyond that, we're going to, as Amy said, be working on a 4-year schedule to revise all of our rules in a systematic way, and just generally make the whole rule book easier to use, more intuitive, get rid of things that shouldn't be there anymore. So it's kind of, the first 2 years is legislative implementation, and then we're going to keep on just improving the rules. Prior to TABC, I was in private practice and administrative law since 2011. Before that, I was with the TCEQ as a staff attorney there. So I have worked at a state agency before, a big one, and I think that experience has been really helpful so far already, as far as putting into place some new ideas about how we're going to do penalties and fees, and ideas about how to do some processes within the agency. So far so good. We're going to get better at this every time. And what we intend to bring before you at each meeting is what you have in front of you today. You're going to essentially have 2 sets of rules. You'll have one set that we're asking you to decide whether or not to publish as a proposed rule in the Texas Register. And that will be followed by a 30-day comment period and a stakeholder meeting, essentially, to receive public comment during that period. And then the second set of rules will be the rules that are now ready for your vote on whether to adopt them. Those rules may have changed during that process, the 30-day comment period, and they may not have. In the case of today, we haven't made any changes since they were published on October 11th in the Texas Register. Your decision today on each of these, it's going to be on each of the first set, publication set, is whether to publish them as they're presented to you, publish them with whatever changes you may like, or to not publish them if there's some reason you feel like we need to slow down the process. With that said, I will go ahead and present item 4.1, which is consideration of potential action on publication of Rule 31.6 regarding advisory committees. This rule proposes, it's part of the sunset recommendations, directs the agency to establish advisory committees by rule to provide expertise to the commission for various issues. What Rule 31.6 does is it creates requirements for subsequent rules that will actually establish the committees. So it's just the basic parameters. When you do want to establish the committees themselves, you will adopt a separate rule for that, for each one. So this matter is now for you for your deliberation decision. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, I move to approve publication of Rule 31.6 as recommended by staff. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote. All right, votes have been cast. Perfect slate. All right. Our votes have been recorded. The motion is approved.
Item 4.2 is consideration of potential action on publication of proposed rule 35.50, physical inspection of licensed and permanent premises. I'm going to present that along with item 4.3, which is proposed rule 35.51, risk-based inspection of licensed and permanent premises. Both of these are in response to the Sunset Bill, which require that the commission adopt an inspection plan that would provide for the physical inspection of the premises of each permittee and licensee within a reasonable time as set by our rule. Based on commission resources and the number of permanent and licensed premises in the state, the proposed commission rule would require the commission to physically inspect each premises at least once every 8 years. If you wanted to do fewer years, we can do fewer years, but if you want to do more years, then that would require a republication of the rule. So right now is your turn to decide if you want to do more fewer years. We feel like 8 is a good place for us as far as our resources go. And then Rule 35.51 is an adjunct or separate part of that same part of the Sunset Bill, which requires us to develop a plan for inspecting premises using a risk-based approach that prioritizes public safety. So our proposed 35.51 requires that the commission classify each permanent or licensed business as either priority or non-priority for inspection purposes. This is a system that is already in use here. It also identifies the factors that we can consider when making that classification, requires that the commission inspect priority locations at least every 6 months and non-priority locations on an as-needed basis. Finally, it provides that these inspections can be either in-person physical inspections or virtual inspections, which are authorized under newly adopted Rule 41.22. So these two working together are to implement the legislature's requirements for our updated inspection plan, both risk-based and periodic. And these items are now before you for your deliberation decision. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Just one comment. I think this is, we use the term, it may not be scientific or mathematically accurate, but we use the term 95.5 a lot, and that 95% of the license holders in the state of Texas are good citizens, like Adam, running a good business, but 5% are not. And so consequently, if we can marshal our resources more efficiently and focus on the bad actors, and if someone gives us no reason to suspect them, then we can focus on the people that are really affecting public safety and breaking the law. So these are efforts to do that. So again, I applaud this process. And so at this time, we'll do one at a time. I move to approve publication of proposed Rule 35.5 as recommended by staff. Is there a second to the motion? Second. I have a second. We'll now vote. Votes have been cast. This is kind of exciting to wait to see. Our votes have been recorded. The motion is approved. I now move to approve publication of proposed Rule 35.51 as recommended by staff. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second has been cast, and we will now vote. Have you ever thought about having the Jeopardy little jingle playing while we do this?
Now I've got that in my brain.
Me too. Now I'm thinking about my
Okay.
Might be more appropriate for last call announcement or something.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Guy walks into a bar. Not yet. Clark, we authorized to do a verbal vote if the technology fails us?
Always.
Yes,
All
we're
right.
gonna have to do.
All right, the second has been cast. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition? Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to items 4.4 and 4.5, which are, again, related rules, 41.18 and 41.19 regarding providing retailer samples. 41.18 gives the distillers and rectifiers permit holders the ability to provide a sample of distilled spirits to a retail permit holder. And then it provides for how that sample will be taxed. And then 41.19 does the same thing to authorize the holder of a non-resident seller's permit in the same manner as the distiller and rectifier's permit to provide a sample of distilled spirits and to make sure that it is taxed properly. These are authorized by House Bill 1997 from the last session. And we would respectfully request that you publish the rule as proposed, and it's now before you for your deliberation decision. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, comments? All right, I move to approve initially publication of proposed rule 41.18 as recommended by staff. Is there a second? Second. I have a second. We will now vote. All right, votes have been cast. Motion is approved. I will now vote on 41.19 as recommended by staff. I move to approve the publication. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, we will now vote. Votes have been cast. Motion carries.
Okay, those are all of your set of rules for adoption. Those will be published in the upcoming Texas Register. Those come out on Fridays. And then we will hold a public hearing early in January, I believe January 3rd, to receive public comment. Then you can expect to see them again under the adoption set of rules. Either they may look exactly the same or they may have some changes based on input, and you'll see those at your next meeting. With that said, let's move on to item 4.6, which is your first item for proposed for adoption. Rule 31.13, enhanced contract monitoring. These were published in the Texas Register on October 11th. We held a public hearing on October 29th. And for all of these rules that you're about to consider, we did not receive any formal public comment in the way of a written comment or formal comment at the hearing, although we may have heard from folks like Mr. DeBauer and considered their comments behind the scenes. 31.13 was required by Senate Bill 20 back in actually 2015, required the commission to identify contracts that require enhanced monitoring and provides factors to be considered in identifying those contracts and requires monitoring reports to be provided to the executive director of commissioners. There are no changes to the text, no comments were received. We respectfully request the commission adopt this final rule. It's now before you for your deliberation and decision.
Comments? All right, I move to approve adoption of new rule 31.13 as recommended by staff. Is there a second? Second. I have a second. We will now vote. Votes are cast. Motion carries. So approved.
Item 4.7 is consideration and potential action on adoption of new rule 33.28, which establishes a fee for the new consumer delivery permit. That amount we had proposed at $5,000 that we set by this final rule. No comments were received and no changes were made to the proposed text. We respectfully request that the commission adopt this final rule, and it's now before you for deliberation and decision.
Comments? None. I move to approve adoption of new rule 33.28 as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote. Votes have been cast. The motion is approved.
Item 4.8 is consideration and potential action on adoption of new rule 33.29, registration of non-resident brewer's agent and non-resident manufacturer's agent. This rule requires that agents acting on behalf of non-resident brewers and non-resident manufacturers register with the commission and pay an annual fee of $2,500. No changes were made to the text and no comments were received. We respectfully request that the commission adopt this final rule, and this matter is now before you for your deliberation and decision.
No comments. I move to approve adoption of new rule 33.29 as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote. Votes have been cast. All right, I'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Okay, on the home stretch, just three more. Item 4.9 is consideration and potential action on adoption of amendments to Rule 34.3, which is our schedule of sanctions and penalties for regulatory violations. This is the item that Mr. DeBauer provided comment on. This amended rule establishes a penalty for exceeding the volume limitation for sale to consumers by certain brewers and manufacturers under the Alcoholic Beverage Code sections 12.052 and 62.122. Essentially, these are year-to-go violations. The amendments provide for a written warning upon the first offense, a 3-day license or permit suspension, or a $500 per day fine for a second violation, and a 5-day license or permit suspension, or a $1,000 per day fine for a third violation. We did not make any changes to the proposed text since publication, and no formal comments were received, although we are always in constant communication with our stakeholders. This item is now before you for your deliberation and decision.
Comments? All right, I move to approve adoption of amendment to Rule 34.3 as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote. Votes have been cast. And the motion carries. Motion is approved.
Item 4.10 is consideration and potential action on adoption of new Rule 41.57 warehouse registration. This was required by the Sunset Bill, and the new rule essentially requires manufacturers and distributors to register their warehouse, providing an address and a form, essentially. Each registered warehouse is a place of business for the purposes of commission rules, and licensees storing beer and malt beverages in a warehouse must keep a record, certain records of receipt, transfer, and movement through the warehouse of those products. No comments were received on this, and no changes have been made to the text as published. We respectfully request that the commission adopt this final rule, and this matter is now before you for your deliberation and decision.
Being no comments, I move to approve adoption of new Rule 41.57 as recommended by staff. Is there a second? I have a second. We will now vote. And Luann, the votes have been cast. The motion is approved.
Item 4.11 is consideration and potential action on adoption of amendments to Rule 45.105 advertising. the Sunset Bill required the commission to adopt reasonable rules relating to the type of outdoor advertising retail licensees and permittees may erect or maintain on the retailer's premises. The amendments to be adopted align outdoor advertising privileges for all retailers by applying standards previously applicable to mixed beverage permittees to all retailers. With a limited exception for retailers who hold food and beverage certificates, the amended rule provides that holders of retail tier licenses and permits may not advertise any price for an alcoholic beverage on any sign or other display located on the retailer's premises in such a manner that the price is visible to persons outside the premises. Retailers other than mixed beverage permittees have been prohibited from posting prices under other provisions of the code, so the restriction on posting prices in the proposed amendment does not change the status quo for them. No comments were received and no changes were made to the text as proposed. We respectfully request the commission adopt this final rule, and this item is now before you for your deliberation and decision.
No comments? I move to approve adoption of amendments to Rule 45.105 as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. We will now vote. And the votes have been cast. And the motion carries.
I understand the next item on the agenda has been pulled down, so I think I am done.
Yeah, so the next item, which was consideration of publication amendments to Rule 31.1, separation of duties between commission and executive director. I have withdrawn that. We've been instructed to update this rule before December 31 of 2020 and to set thresholds for contested cases. Since we've just added 2 additional commissioners, I'd like to give you all time to familiarize yourself and for us as a body to discuss, or not discuss, but to become familiar with. All right, thank you. The next item is executive session. The commission will now go into executive session under Government Code 551.074 and 551.071. The regular open session, the TABC, will now be in recess. The time is now 12:19 p.m. Tuesday, November 26, 2019. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission has concluded its executive session, is now in regular open session. The date is Tuesday, November 26, 2019. The time is 1:13 p.m. Next is potential action on items discussed in executive session. No action will be taken. And next is public comment, which we've already had. And so the next is announcement of the next meeting date, which is January 28th, 2020. And bear with me 1 second. I think I should be back. Okay, that's good. Does it work for you, Commissioner Steen? Commissioner Boatright?
What day?
That is January 28th, 2020. Work for you? All right, very good. The commission is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. Next is adjournment. The time is now 1:14 p.m. I wish you all a blessed and happy and safe Thanksgiving. May your football team of choice win.